Fidelio, the only opera written by Beethoven, was not born under the best stars. It premiered in Vienna in November 1805 during a time in which Napoleon's troops had already invaded the city and many of Beethoven's patrons had left. The premiere of the opera happened in front of an audience made largely of French officers who did not enjoy it. Hello everyone, I'm Gianmaria Griglio, conductor and composer, and I welcome you to a new episode of Conducting Builds. If you're new here, this channel is all about classical music appreciation, score analysis, and conducting tips. I want to thank all of my patrons for making this series possible, and now, on with Beethoven. Music aside, it's easy to understand why. Fidelio is in fact the pseudonym with which Leonore disguises herself as a guard in order to free her husband Florestan, imprisoned for political reasons. Quite a clear message from Beethoven to the invading French troops. Beethoven wrote and rewrote the overture to his opera 4 times. The first 3 are the Leonore overtures, while the final one takes the name of Fidelio. Beethoven himself always wanted to call the opera after her heroine rather than her pseudonym, but at the time there were already another couple of operas going by the name Leonore. It was a theater that changed the name to avoid confusion. Traditionally, this overture begins with the slow introduction. A full orchestra chord in fortissimo catches the attention of the audience, and we descend down into the dungeon via downward scale. The entrance of the clarinets and bassoons line sheds a bit of light and hope, moving to A-flat major. The same idea is retaken by the strings, but shifts the atmosphere again. The ominous entrance of the flute is turned into a game of triplets, moving to E minor. The same triplets are transferred to the cellos and basses a few bars later, broadening the game to a question-answer between sections. The game is intensified and slowly but surely reaches a fortissimo with 3 Fs, followed by a forte piano contrast. We've seen a lot of these dynamic contrasts in Beethoven, for instance when we talked about the Second Symphony, or the Seventh Symphony, or the Coriolan Overture. We approach the end of the introduction, suspended on the last note of the C major scale, and we continue right into the Allegro. The first thing that one can notice in the score is the absence of the second violins. All other string players are in, but Beethoven saves the use of the seconds for later. The syncopated theme is played by the first violins and the cellos. The violas accompany with repeated 8 notes, while the basses hold a pedal of Cs in pizzicato. The second violins finally make their entrance in octave with the first, and a huge crescendo leads to full orchestra fortissimo. This crescendo is entirely built on the syncopated motive. But if we look closely, we can notice that the rhythm of the second bar of that motive is transferred to the woodwinds and horns. The theme is repeated in full forte, and its last element reused in a shortened version to continue the conversation. A surprising harmonic shift brings back the syncopated motive. And we finally land on a new section. Notice how this idea is also based on a scale, played by the first violins in their warm low register, doubled by the flute. The triplets of the second violins and violas immediately add a certain excitement and anxiety to the line. Beethoven begins playing with the material immediately. He creates a crescendo that shifts to a subito pianissimo, and then starts again in pianissimo with a motive that is connected to the first theme by the syncopated element. Another crescendo to the full orchestra, and it's time for new dynamic contrasts, landing on the third bar of the first theme used as a connecting tissue. This cell moves down the scale, explodes in the sudden fortissimo, and then it's inverted, moving up, its rhythm slightly variated. These contrasts, built on phrase models of 4+4 or 4+8 bars, keep going till they are transformed into a passionate language line on bar 232. Notice that the motive is still based on the third bar of the first theme, played by the first violins and echoed by the woodwinds in thirds, minus the oboes. It's all part of the same game. The dynamic contrasts return immediately with the furious scales of the strings and the inverted motive in piano, leading again to the same anguish half a step higher. The syncopated motive is transformed and used as a model, moving back and forth between the cello's basses and the first violins to build a huge crescendo. Notice the presence of continuous sforzatos. A couple of final rising scales drop immediately to the bottom of the spectrum, introducing the trumpet call of freedom. Time is suspended in a series of woodwinds chords sustained by the strings, and the trumpet call is back. The episode is repeated with some variations in the orchestration, and we reach the reprise of this overture, left to a solo flute in G major. The strings pulsate underneath, and the solo bassoon offers delicate answers to the flute. After a recapitulation with few variations, Beethoven bridges into the Coda, a fast Presto distilling notes in rapid scales, starting with, specified in the score, only 2 or 3 violins from the first violins section. Joined by 2 or 3 of the second violins section, and then by the violas, cellos, and basses in the cascade of notes that explodes in a fortissimo, where we hear the syncopated motive once again. An energetic fanfare follows, and this monumental overture finishes with great impetus. This coda can be really tricky, as it's very easy to get thrown off by the offbeat accents. Give a pulseless cue for the first violins to begin, and then keep your gestures really small from the wrist. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel by clicking on the subscribe button right below this video and ring the bell so that you will get notified every time a new video comes out. For more in-depth analysis, conducting technique, and conducting exercises, look on my website where you can find more than 80 videos and follow my Facebook group. And if you want to support this series, you're always welcome to do so on Patreon. All the links are in the description. Let me know in the comments what you think about this piece and if you have any suggestions for future videos, and I look forward to seeing you next week with a new episode of Conducting Pills, when we will go through another one of your suggestions, the prelude to the first act of Richard Wagner's Parsifal. In the meanwhile, please continue to enjoy music and be well. Ciao! A few chances to show off your technique and to break the patterns. For example, move towards your body to make the initial diminuendo. Use registration for the downward scale. Move away and towards your